Good morning, students. Today is my third lecture on electrostatic. In my last two lectures, we have been discussing about the charges and some numericals related to them. So today, the most important topic of this chapter, that is Coulomb's law. We are going to cover Coulomb's law in today's lecture. Coulomb's law, also known as electrostatic law. This law was basically proposed by Charles Augustin Coulomb. He was a French physicist. Just like Newton studied the interaction of two masses and he gave Newton's law of gravitation. In similar manner, Charles Augustin Coulomb studied the interaction between two charges. As we know, two charges, whether they are of same kind or opposite, they will either attract each other or repel each other. Now, what will be the force of attraction or repulsion between this pair charge is given by Coulomb's law. So, in this law, we will study the expression of the force which are exerted between these two charges, Q1 and Q2. So, first of all, write the statement of Coulomb's law. So, here is the statement of the Coulomb's law. According to Coulomb's law, the force of attraction or repulsion between 2 point charges. We are having two charges and between them the force of attraction or repulsion will be. Now what is the main statement? This force will be directly proportional to the product of charges and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. Let me repeat it. Directly proportional to the product of charges and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. Now, how can we express it mathematically? Now see, suppose two charges are Q1 and Q2. These are the 2 point charges separated by distance R. So, first statement says that this force is proportional to the product of the charges, that is Q1 into Q2. Force is proportional to product of charges, and the second statement gives that force is proportional to square, inversely proportional to square of distance, that is 1 by r square. On combining these two statements, we get our expression F proportional to Q1 Q2 upon r square. So F is proportional to Q1 Q2 by r square. So you have to keep it in mind that it is directly proportional to Q1 Q2 and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. So, on removing the sign of proportionality, we always prefer a constant in the physics. So, on removing this proportionality in equality, we use a constant K Q1 Q2 by R square. So, this is the final expression for the Coulomb's law. F is equals to K Q1 Q2 by R square. As we know, these are the product of charges. It is the distance between them. Now what does this K signifies? So here it is a constant. So here K is called constant of proportionality. K is called as constant of proportionality, and this K can be expressed as, mathematically we write K equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. This is termed as epsilon naught. This K is written as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Now why so? First of all, the question arises why this term 4 pi is used here. 4 pi is used because we are considering the charges. The charges which we are going to take, the charges are considered as spherical or cylindrical symmetric. So whenever we take anything in symmetric manner, we use the term 4 pi. So 4 pi is used because the charges are considered as spherically symmetric. So we termed 4 pi is used here. Now second thing is this epsilon naught. This is not E naught, it is epsilon naught. always try to pronounce it as epsilon naught only. This epsilon naught means basically electrical permittivity of free space. Electrical permittivity of free space. This epsilon naught means electrical permittivity of free space, and the value of this epsilon naught, it is fixed. You have to memorize it. 8.85 into 10 raised to the power minus 12. This is the value of this epsilon naught. 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. The unit, it can be found out with the help of this K. Now see, F, we all know the unit of force is Newton, the unit of charge is Coulomb, and distance is always measured in meter. So the unit of this K will be Newton meter square upon Coulomb square. With the help of this formula, you can find out the unit of this K. We transfer this R here. F is Newton, R is in meter, so meter square, and Coulomb into Coulomb square. So Newton meter square upon Coulomb square is the unit of K. And we have to find the unit of this epsilon naught. K and epsilon naught are inversely related. K and epsilon naught are inversely related. So the unit of this epsilon naught will be Coulomb square upon Newton meter square. So the value of epsilon naught is 8.85 10 to the power minus 12 Coulomb square Newton meter square. On substituting this value of epsilon naught in this formula, now see what we'll get. The value of K, we have written K equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. So on substituting the value 3.14 value of pi, and epsilon naught is 8.85 10 raised to the power minus 12. On simplifying this expression, we will get the value of K something about 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square upon Coulomb square. So this is the expression for the K. So we can write the Coulomb's law as F equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square. So this is our mathematical expression for the Coulomb's law. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. Now see here, the relation between this F and this epsilon naught. Try to understand, this force is somewhat inversely related to this epsilon naught. Now this epsilon naught, it is, we have written it at electrical permittivity. But what does this term means, permittivity? Don't consider it as a permission. Electrical permittivity, it is the ability of a medium. The ability of a medium to restrict the electric lines of force. Suppose two charges are Q1 and Q2, and in generally the medium which is present between these two charges is air. Now suppose if we change this medium, then surely the value of epsilon will also changes. This epsilon naught is basically used for free space, permittivity of free space, or you can consider it as air. If the two charges are placed in air, then we use the term epsilon naught. This higher the value of this epsilon naught, you can understand from this expression, higher the value of epsilon naught, less will be the force of attraction or repulsion between charges. Higher the value of epsilon naught, your smaller will be the force between charges. Because of this inverse relation, the function of this epsilon is to restrict the force. Higher the value of epsilon, higher will be the restriction, and lower will be the force. So suppose the medium is changed, and instead of air we can use any other medium also. So in that case we use the term epsilon only. Epsilon naught is used for the free space or air, and this epsilon is only used as electrical permittivity of any mediums. Any medium is given, then we use the word epsilon. So now study the relation between these two, permittivity of free space and permittivity of medium. This relation is termed as relative permittivity, or you can also write it as dielectric constant. Relative permittivity is written with the term epsilon r, and dielectric constant is written with k. Small k is used for dielectric constant. Now suppose these are the two charges separated by distance r, and the medium which is present here is right now air. So according to Coulomb's law, the expression for the force F is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. Because the medium is air, so we have used the word epsilon naught. We can also write here F air. This is a subscript, so it mentions the force in air. Now suppose the same charges are there, q1 and q2, but this time instead of air we have used any medium. It can be water or any kind of medium we can prefer. Now this time we have to write force in medium, that is 1 upon 4 pi. Instead of epsilon naught, we will only write the word epsilon, because epsilon is used for any medium. And same q1 q2 by r square. Equation number first, and this is equation number second. This is the force in air, this is the force in any medium. Now so on dividing equation first by equation second, your equation first was force in air and your equation second was force in any medium. What was the force in air? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 upon r square, completely divided by force in medium, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon q1 q2 by r square. These two terms are cancelled out, 4 pi to 4 pi cancel out, and on simplification you will get force in air upon force in any medium is equals to epsilon by epsilon naught. This ratio, the ratio of permittivity of medium to the permittivity of space. Numerator it is epsilon and denominator is epsilon naught. This is termed as the permittivity of medium, it is the permittivity of space. This ratio is only termed as relative permittivity epsilon or you can call it as dielectric constant K. So this epsilon r, many times its definition has been asked, what do you mean by relative permittivity? So you can define it as, so relative permittivity, it can be defined as ratio of, what is the ratio? Ratio of permittivity of medium to the permittivity of free space. Epsilon r is defined as the ratio of permittivity of medium to the permittivity of free space. Now from this expression you can also say that this epsilon r, it is a unitless quantity, unitless as well as dimensionless quantity. There is no unit or dimension of this epsilon r. It is defined as permittivity of medium to the permittivity of free space. Now most important thing which you have to keep in mind, the value of this epsilon naught, we already memorized it, 8.85 10 to the power minus 12. You have to learn this value, but this value can never be learned because there are millions of medium and we cannot memorize all their permittivity. So in general questions, epsilon naught is already known and epsilon r is given, and we need the value of epsilon. This value is required. So from this expression, whenever there is requirement of epsilon, you use the formula epsilon r into epsilon naught. In any questions, if we require the value of epsilon, then we replace this epsilon with epsilon r into epsilon naught. This value is known to us and this value is given by the examiner, so we can easily find out the value of epsilon. Or one more way, you can also write that it is defined as force in air and force in medium. The ratio of these two forces is also equal to epsilon r, that is relative permittivity. Now, so force in any medium is 1 upon epsilon r times the force in air, which means we can say that the maximum force is always in air. If we take any medium, the value of the force reduces by the factor of epsilon r. The maximum force is always present in air. So the maximum value of force is possible in space or in air for any given medium. For any given medium, the value of force decreases by epsilon r. The maximum value is force in air, and in any medium it will reduce by 1 upon epsilon r. So let me recall once again everything. According to Coulomb's, first of all we have studied that force F equals to K times of Q1 Q2 by R square. Instead of this K, we can also write is F equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square if there is air between the two charges. And second, we have studied that epsilon r, this is relative permittivity, it is equals to epsilon by epsilon naught. And further we have studied that this epsilon r, or we can also write K, this is dielectric constant, it is equals to force in air upon force in medium, which means the maximum value of force is in air. So let's go through the next topic of our electrostatic. It is Coulomb's law in vector form. Coulomb's law in vector form, it is also an important topic. Many times its derivation has been asked in exam. So there should be a little knowledge of vector before starting this topic. So let's consider two charges Q1 and Q2 separated by distance r. As we know that if they are of same kind, means both are positive or they may be negative, there will be the force of repulsion between them. Q1 will repel charge Q2 and Q2 will repel charge Q1. So we'll study one by one. First of all, let's see force on charge Q2 by Q1. Means here Q1 is going to repel Q2. That is force on second due to first. You have to keep in mind force on second, and the reason is first. Means first charge is applying force on second. Force on second due to first. According to Coulomb's law, this force is K times of Q1 Q2 upon R square, the square of distance between them. But in order to express this form in a vector, as we are studying the vector form, so we have to use the vector notation. So this is force in the vector form, K times of Q1 Q2 by R square. Now here we will use a unit vector, R cap. I think you must be memorizing the topic unit vector. In 11th class we have studied this unit vector. Unit vector is basically a vector which is having a magnitude of 1. Suppose this A cap, pronounced as A cap. A cap is a unit vector, it's having a magnitude equals to 1. So if I write here unit vector, there will be no any change in its magnitude because the magnitude of this unit vector is 1. So on multiplying anything with 1, there will be no any change in its magnitude. So in order to write this form in vector, I have used here unit vector r cap. Now, how this is going to work? See, this force is applied by Q1 on Q2. So Q1, the line from Q1 will travel to Q2. The direction of the force is from Q1 to Q2. So this unit vector direction is r cap 1 2 1 to 2. The force will be from first charge to second charge. Now similarly, this time second charge is going to apply force on first charge, means force on first due to second. So here we are writing force on charge Q1 by Q2, that is force on first due to second, it is K times of Q1 Q2 by R square, and in order to write in the vector form we use a unit vector r cap. Now this time second is going towards the first, so the direction will be r cap 2 to 1. Note these two equation very carefully. First is force on second due to first, the direction is from first to second. Force on first due to second, the direction is from second to first. Now see, what is the main difference between these two? In first, force on second due to first, the direction is from 1 to 2. In this case you are seeing the direction from first to second, and in this case we are seeing the direction from second to first. Means both of these vectors are equal in magnitude. Both of these two vectors are equal in magnitude, but the main difference is in their direction. Means these two vectors r12, r cap 12 is equal to r21. They are equal in magnitude, but the main difference is their direction. So we are using here negative sign. You can use any one of these with the negative sign. So in placing the negative sign, these two vectors are equal. So if any one of this is negative, then F21 is also equal to F12, but also there will be difference in their signs. Means both the forces, this is charge Q1, this is charge Q2. If Q1 is applying force on Q2, Q1 is applying force on Q2, then same amount of force is applied by Q2 on Q1. Means both these forces are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, so we are using here a negative sign. You must remember Newton's third law. In Newton's third law we have studied about action and reaction. In same way, these two forces are also acting as a pair of action and reaction. So we can say that Coulomb's law obey Newton's third law of motion. From this expression we can state that Coulomb's law obey Newton's third law of motion, because these two are the pair of action and reaction. Now let's have a small look of comparison between electrostatic force and gravitational force. Electrostatic force given by Charles Augustin Coulomb and gravitational force was given by Newton's law of gravitation. In this electrostatic force, we are studying the intermediate form of force between two charges. We are studying the force between two charges, and here we are studying the force between two masses. So there are some similarities and some dissimilarities between them. First of all, we will discuss the similarities. What are the similarities between both the forces? First of all, they both obey inverse square law. That is, F is proportional to 1 by R square. In electrostatic force, we know that F is equals to K Q1 Q2 by r square. This is the expression for electrostatic force. In gravitational force, we know that F is equals to G, universal gravitational constant, G times of m1 m2 by r square. This is the expression for electrostatic force and this is the expression for gravitational force. In both the expression you can see that F is inversely proportional to r square. So both this law obey inverse square law. Second, both are central forces, which means they are acting from the center of one body to the center of another body along the line. If this is the mass m1 and mass m2, then the gravitational force will acting along the line joining their masses. And if this is the charge q1 and charge q2, then the electrostatic force will also act along the line joining their masses, center masses. Means both electrostatic force and gravitational force always take place between a pair, either the pair of mass or the pair of charge, and they always act along the line joining their center. So they are both are central forces. Third one is both are conservative force. Now conservative and non-conservative, two terms are there in our 11th class. Conservative force means in this case the amount of work done does not depend on the path. You have to just memorize it. Conservative forces are those forces for which work done does not depends on the path. That is termed as conservative. If work done depends on the path, in that case it will become non-conservative. So here these two forces are conservative in nature. And fourth one is both these two forces operate in vacuum. Both the two forces operate in vacuum. So these are generally four similarities between these two forces. Now let's see some dissimilarities between electrostatic force and gravitational. Just now we have seen the similarities and now we are going to see dissimilarities. Now gravitational force is always attractive in nature. Gravitational force is always attractive in nature means this force can never be repulsive. There will always be the attraction force between two masses. But electrostatic force, it may be attractive or repulsive depending on charges. So this electrostatic force may be attractive or repulsive depending on the charges. Now you just learn it. If the two charge q1 dot q2, it is more than 0. Greater than 0 means positive. It will be positive if both are positive or both are negative. If q1 and q2 both are positive, then their product will also positive. If both are negative, then also their product will be positive. So q1 and q2 greater than 0, it means the force is repulsive. It is confirmed that the force is repulsive. And if q1 q2 less than 0, then the force is attractive. Less than 0 means if one is positive, the other will be negative. Opposite pair attract each other, similar charges repel each other. So this thing you have to remember, that q1 q2 comes greater than 0, their nature will be repulsive. q1 q2 will less than 0, then the nature is always attractive. This is the first similarity, first dissimilarity between them. And the second point is electrostatic force depends on the medium. As we know that F is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square, where this epsilon naught describes about the nature of medium. So electrostatic force depends on the medium. But if we talk about gravitational force, it does not depends on medium. As we are using the formula F equals to Z m1 m2 by r square, this G is universal constant. Where we can move any medium, this G does not changes. So this force does not depends on any medium, whereas electrostatic force depends on medium. And the third dissimilarity is that electrostatic force is stronger than gravitational force. So electrostatic force is stronger than gravitational force. So this thing we have to prove mathematically also. How we can say that electrostatic force is stronger than gravitational force. So we will compare these two forces. See. So suppose a pair of electron and proton. Now what will be the electrostatic force between them? So electrostatic force we have written Fe. This will denote the representation of electrostatic force, that is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught charge on electron into charge on proton upon r square. This is first equation for electrostatic, and second we are writing for gravitational force. So gravitational force is G times of mass of electron, mass of proton upon r square. Equation number second. Now only we have to do is to compare these two equations and find out what is their numerical value. On dividing first by second, Fe by Fg, it was 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught charge on electron, charge on proton upon r square, completely divisible by G times of mass of electron, mass of proton upon r square. See, r square to r square cancel out. The value of this 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught 9 into 10 to the power 9. Charge on electron is 1.6 10 to the power minus 19, and the charge on proton is also same 1.6 10 to the power minus 19. Divisible by capital G. Capital G is 6.67 10 raised to the power minus 11. This is the value of universal gravitational constant into mass of electron, that is 9.1 10 raised to the power minus 31 into mass of proton 1.67 10 to the power minus 27. So on solving we get a rough idea of these two forces, which is somewhat equal to 2.27 into 10 to the power 39. So we can say that electrostatic force is 10 to the power 39 times stronger, 10 to the power 39 times more than gravitational force. So this expression shows that electrostatic force is far more stronger than gravitational force. This is the comparison between electrostatic force and gravitational force. Now some practical example also we can say how this electrostatic force is stronger than gravitational force. If you all remember, in our earlier classes or in our childhood, we have performed this experiment at our home also. Suppose if we take a piece of papers, small pieces of paper, and we take a scale. Before take this scale, we rub this scale with any woolen cloth. Suppose our scale gets positive charge. It is electrostatically positive charged. Now what is going to happen? This scale will induce negative charge on this piece of paper. There is no any physical contact. So which phenomena is going to occur? Induction. In our last lecture we have studied about this induction. In the phenomena of induction, without any physical contact, opposite charges developed on a body. So this is a scale of positively charged, when we bring it over the pieces of paper, these papers also get negatively charged, and because of plus and minus, these papers are attracted towards the scale with the which force? Electrostatic force. And as we all know, these papers are kept on a table because of gravitational force. So this time we can see that electrostatic force is stronger than gravitational force. Electrostatic force overcomes the gravitational force and attracts the piece of paper. So this is a very simple example by which we can see that how electrostatic force is stronger than gravitational force. So for today's lecture, I am going to end. In our next lecture, we are going to see the numericals based on today's formula. Okay, thank you.